In this video, we will talk about the basics of using the referencing tool. If we go to the home ribbon and we go to the attach tools and we'll click on the down arrow, we're going to go ahead and select references. Now inside of here you're going to see that we have some files here that are attached. If we go to the tools pull down, you're going to see attach, which allows you to attach a file, whether it's a MicroStation file or a AutoCAD file. You can detach it, which that will remove it from this list. If you do a detach all, it'll remove all these reference files that are attached. The reload and reload all, that will reload those files. So if somebody made some changes to one of these and they saved it and checked it in, you could actually reload it and get the updates that they have done. Exchange will actually exchange you into that file. We'll actually open it up. Open a new session would actually open up a new session of OpenRoads Designer. Activate and deactivate, you could actually activate that particular reference file inside of this file and make changes to it. And we have a separate video on that, and it'll show you exactly how to do that portion of it. Now underneath move, copy, scale, rotate, and merge to master, you shouldn't have to do any of these three right here for the most part, because on a set of highway plans, it's in the correct location of where it should be from the survey, so there's really no need to really move it or copy it or scale it or rotate, but that's what it would do if you'd want to use one of those. The merge to master, what that will do is actually take the files that you have selected and copy that data into this active file, so it will no longer be referenced. It just makes a copy of it and places it inside the file. We're not going to worry about the mirroring portion of it. And then you also have the options to do some clips, which those will be in a separate video also of demonstrating how to do those clip boundaries. Same thing for the attach. There's a separate video on that also. So that's kind of some of the basics of the referencing tool. You also have these icons across the bottom through here, and basically those represent these same tools underneath the tools pull down. Now if we go to our highlight mode, this allows us to go in here and actually highlight the geometry that's in that particular reference file. So right now if it's set to none and I come through here and select any of these reference files, you'll see that nothing happens to that geometry. Now if I do a boundary, you're going to see that clipped boundary of how it was placed. And that all depends on what file that it is. You also have the option to do highlight, which if you go through there and select a different reference file, you're going to see that you got different geometry that's going to highlight. So that's what that tool does. Or you can do both, where it puts a boundary and the highlight option to it. So whenever you do that, you can actually see what geometry is in that particular reference file as you zoom in or zoom out. And that will allow it to refresh also. Another way you can figure out what the geometry is on, let me go ahead and set this back to none, is if you have your element selection tool activated and you hover over an element, you'll also see that in that little box there, that information box, you'll see a reference and it'll show you what reference file it's located under. So that's where that geometry is located at, and then you'd physically open up that file and make changes to it. We have a separate video on some methods of doing that particular portion of it, where you would edit stuff in a particular reference file. So that's your highlight modes. You can change that to whatever you wish, but that's what that does. Next thing that we're going to talk about is we have these reference files attached, and if we come over here, we have these three icons, which is display, snap, and locate. Now normally the snap and the locate, those are always toggled on. That way if you're trying to draw to a certain point, or you want to snap to a certain point that's on an element that's in a reference file, it'll allow you to snap to it. So normally we would leave that checked on. Same thing for the locate. If we want to highlight something and maybe make a copy of it for whatever reason, that would allow us to use our element selection tool and actually select that element. But if that's toggled off, it won't allow us to do it. Now probably the most common one that you would use is this right here, to where if you want to turn off the display of a referenced file. So let's say on my survey here, let's say I still want it attached to this file. I'm still going to use it, but maybe I need to measure something or do something else, but I want to turn off the display of that reference. If I click on that little button right there, that check mark, it'll actually turn off my survey file. Or if I want to turn off my civil geometry, I can untoggle that and it'll turn it off. It's still attached to this file, I'm just turning off the display of it. Very similar to your levels where you can turn off and on levels. So that's what that particular icon will allow you to do. Same thing for this right here. You have these same icons right here. Those do the exact same thing depending on which one that you have selected. So I go to survey, I can toggle off the display of it, and now you'll see that it's turned off. I can turn it back on. Another one that's probably beneficial to know is this little icon right here that says display raster references. So let's say you had underneath your survey file, let's say you had an image that was attached to it. And I want to see that image in this file because this file right here is being utilized in this file. So if I want to see that image that is attached to this survey file, I could turn on this little icon right here that says display raster references, and it would turn on that image that is attached to this survey file. Now if I turn it on now, nothing's going to happen because I don't have a image attached to it, but if I did, it would actually turn on that image. So that's what that little icon will allow you to do. The other one that you need to have toggled on is this use active annotation scale, which that's going to use the active annotation scale in the file. If you want to use the annotation scale that's applied to this reference file, you would toggle that off and it would use that particular annotation scale that's attached to this survey file versus your active one. For MODOT purposes, you would always want to probably use this right here, so normally we would leave that toggled on. So that's pretty much the basics of the referencing tool for what you would need to know for MODOT purposes.